Hey, nice to see you. Right. Humid.
Welcome to Panama.
Hey, gringo. Vi lo que hiciste a Gustavo.
Tengo un cuchillo que tiene tu nombre, amigo. Te lo
Hey,
mostraré
Vargas.
cuando regreses.
Déjanoslo a nosotros. Nos encargamos
Atrás.
de él.
¡Muévanse! ¡Quítense, cabrones!
Hey, tranquilízate.
Looks like you have some fans.
Yeah, my adoring public.
Not many game companies can match the success and integrity of Naughty Dog in the industry today. A series like Uncharted had the potential to last forever. Take a smarmy, wannabe pirate, give him a sarcastic crew, and let him search the globe for the doubloons of every pirate in history. But Naughty Dog knows not only how to tell a story, but more importantly, how and when to end one.
So how much does he know?
Enough that he wants a cut.
Shit.
Rafe, if anybody else finds out about this...
I'll work it out with Vargas. Don't sweat it.
A Thief's End is in almost every way another evolution for video games that Naughty Dog can add under their belt. Not necessarily a revolution, but in Uncharted's case, that's not a bad thing if you don't need one to begin with.
What are we gonna do with you?
Almost 5 years after the release of Drake's Deception, the story picks up 3 years into Nathan Drake's life as a humble, married man. He's got a good job and a good life with nothing to show of his adventurous escapades, save for his attic where he keeps his memorabilia. Elena cooks dinner, Nathan does the dishes. What's not to like? After some flashbacks to Nathan's childhood, giving full meaning to the phrase adventure of a lifetime, Sam, his long-lost brother, returns from his past with not only the opportunity for a new treasure hunt, but the necessity. Drake is reluctant to involve his wife, but it soon plays out that he might enjoy defying death just a bit more than he should. It is a little odd that we haven't heard any mention of Sam up until now, particularly because we saw a glimpse of young Nathan at the start of Uncharted 3, wearing Sam's shirt as a nice little nod, which was set up to give the impression that yes, he was an orphan, but he was alone. Sully was the one who seemed to be looking out for him from then on. Still, you could say that Drake didn't want to talk about him because he thought he had died, but you'd think it might have slipped out in conversation at some point in his courting and marriage to Elena. But I suppose he wouldn't be able to go on a new adventure if that was the case, and all things considered, it does provide a serviceable motivation, given the implication at the end of Uncharted 3 that Drake was going to trade in his wild side for a wife.
I don't know about you, but I don't want to be working salvage when I'm 60. Do you?
Sure beats prison. No. Listen, I have to pass.
Fortunately, once again, what an adventure it is. A Panamanian prison, Scotland's snow, dense jungles, tropical coves, lively fishing villages. There's never been so much variety in an Uncharted game, and surprisingly, as much detail within each location to boot. Every level and setting is a joy to explore, and I found myself pausing just to look at the extra efforts put in the environment or an encompassing view of the countryside, especially when the characters decide to specifically point out the handiwork of their creators.
It's a nice view, huh?
Yeah. Not bad.
Alright, not gonna lie. This is pretty awesome.
Look at that beauty. How you feeling?
Feeling better now that I'm out of that river.
One section, which has you navigating a trap-filled underground cave, is one of the highlights, as the game's lighting engine has its own chance to, well, shine.
So if you expected a bunch of witty quips, you got the wrong Drake.
Except for the beginning chapters, which are a little slow to take off, pacing is perfect between climbing, shooting, and puzzle solving, but almost to a point that I was telling myself, well, I haven't seen an enemy in the last 15 minutes, so I can look forward to that as soon as I enter the next area. The puzzles are challenging, but fair, and as always, make use of Drake's hilarious journal filled with clues, history, and doodles.
Yeesh. I thought the modern prison was bad.
Even with the change in the writing staff and coming off the seriousness and grit of The Last of Us, Druckmann and Straley have nailed the humor and tone of the series. While at its core it's maintained the priority of a swashbuckling action-adventure game, they've recognized the potential of drawing focus to Nathan Drake's lifestyle now that he has people who depend on him. While there are cutscenes for the more serious moments, as usual the best conversations are when it's Drake and a compatriot bumbling around a cliff or talking their way through a trap. It's immaculately acted as well, with Nolan North in particular delivering his best work yet.
It's a nice acting, Vargas. Almost as good as mine.
There's a couple of moments that seem out of place, and jarred with the pacing a bit, however. One moment starts the third act where an exposition dump reiterates motivations of the two villains and their army, and while I hadn't given them too much thought other than, well, they're probably after the treasure too, it seemed forced and unnecessary to go into specifics because that motivation is never discussed again. That said, it does make up for it immeasurably by nailing what I think to be the best set pieces the series has ever seen, with scaling Scotland cliffs and climbing a looming clock tower standing out specifically.
The engine's out! What? I can fix it! Just cover me! God damn it!
Luckily, controlling Nathan along these death traps feels like they finally perfected his animation and movements. Before, it was fairly obvious which holds you could jump to, and if you were going up or down, but now they've made climbing more engaging and dangerous. Sometimes there's more than one route to take, sometimes you can head in one direction only to realize you have to turn around and try somewhere else, and the introduction of the grappling hook makes leaps exciting and suspenseful, even if the automatic latching and conveniently placed rocks in the middle of nowhere are a little immersion breaking. But when you're swinging back and forth on the top of a mountain, looking out at a beautifully rendered sunset or an ocean, you're not really going to find yourself scoffing.
Wait till Sam hears about this.
When you do run into the occasional patrol of mercenaries convincingly made morally right to kill because of their evil dialogue between themselves while you're planning a stealth attack, shooting and aiming finally feels like it ranks with the best in third-person action games. It's tight with the perfect amount of aim assistance, but I found that body shots are pretty ineffective against most enemy types in the game, rewarding precision a bit too much. I lost count of the number of times I had to shoot an enemy in the balls before he finally called it quits. Like previous entries, you can approach encounters using stealth, but it doesn't seem as well implemented as it could have been. Naughty Dog has adapted marking enemies for future reference, a la Far Cry 3 or Shadow of Mordor, but it's a little too easy to be spotted. It's tricky because I appreciate NPCs having sight lines that extend past 20 feet, but a lot of the time an enemy with his back to you will have a friend watching him, and so forth, that it becomes a hassle to take them out in some predetermined order. In addition, being spotted quickly leads to reinforcements, no matter how many of the enemies you've already cleared, so you don't have the opportunity to quickly clean up the rest. It made completing areas using stealth frustrating, especially when your AI companion is quick to point out on how that could have gone better.
Crap. This is really not good.
Multiplayer, though, is another high point. Character movement is slightly more fast-paced than in the story mode, allowing for quick climbing and rolling. There's a decent amount of skill required to outgun your opponents, and with a solid amount of weapon variety for your loadout, there's a welcome amount of depth for the growing community. There's an unlock system modeled after Call of Duty in which progressing in level unlocks new weapons and abilities, as well as attachments for guns depending on how much you use them. Because it takes downing someone and then finishing them off, much like in Gears of War, teamwork is heavily encouraged as it takes a good amount of shooting to take someone down, and if you're lucky, a revive is within arm's reach. But if you're adamant on remaining antisocial, Uncharted 4 has introduced a new feature by adding buddies you can spawn in if you amass a certain amount of money. One is support-based, feeding you ammo and reviving your team, one wields a heavy machine gun to take damage and lock down areas, a sniper to pick off foes, and a hunter who runs around and gives people noogies until you can run in and finish the job. Coupled with tombs that send out curses, slowing down time, and more, there seems to be always something unique and colorful to watch out for while utilizing it strategically. It fits well into the Uncharted universe and ends up being surprisingly deep as well. That said, at the end of the day, as fine-tuned as multiplayer seems to be, I can't help seeing it being treated as more than a goofy good time, as players Tarzan around the map, pulling people from ledges and dropping tackles from above.
That was too close.
I don't think Uncharted 4 has taken over the spot that Among Thieves holds in my heart, but that doesn't really mean that much, because in every way it's such a good game. It's not perfect, but that's almost what I expected it to be. A deserving, fitting conclusion to one of my favorite series, and after all the hoopla with Amy Hennig, the creative director, being removed, and Bruce Straley and Neil Druckmann taking over, despite how you may feel, they've really done the ending of The Legend of Nathan Drake justice. How often can you say that a game ended up being everything you wanted it to be, and more?
Oh, would you look at that? Digna factis